Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rally Report podcast. A couple days late, but happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully this year I can stay more consistent with these episode uploads. But given the ramped up competition in the small squash podcast world, I'm hoping that'll hold me accountable. Kills me to say this and promote other squash podcasts, but it's the new year, so I should be more mature. So go check out some other ones as well. There's the Squash University, which covers college squash, led by Gilly and Jackson, and there's Squash Radio, led by Connor and his co-host. We'll just leave it at that. And there's the In Squash podcast with Jerry as well. On the rundown front, there really hasn't been much squash going on these past couple weeks, but thought this would be a time to share with you guys some stuff I found quite entertaining these past couple days. So on January 2nd, PSA on their main website publishes a huge clickbaity article called Diego Elias under investigation for code of conduct violation during the Hong Kong Open. Spooky title. I immediately thought this was some doping accusation. I don't know why I jumped to that specific conclusion, but I blame the title. Now, if you read the article in classic PSA fashion, there's literally no substance. It's less than a couple of sentences, just outlining that he'll be under investigation about him slamming his racket against the sidewall after he loses his match against Farag. Not sure what on earth there is to investigate, but apparently they need a task force to investigate this. But now what I do find incredibly inconsistent is that PSA usually do very quietly publish these disciplinary update articles which they also bury with other articles where they outline which player got banned, suspended, or fined for breaching code of conduct. Not sure how many of you actually knew that they do this, but again, they keep it very broad, which is why I find it so odd that they decided to dedicate an article for Elias breaking a racket as if it was the biggest incident of all. Racket smashes happen all the time, and I feel like there's been some other incidents throughout the season that would be much more of a talking point for an article. Just feel like they took the most minor incident and choose to make this one all flashy because we're supposed to believe this is the biggest incident that could happen in squash while keeping the actual happenings throughout the season hush hush. Or maybe I'm wrong. This is the new direction of 2025 where they publish an article on every incident. And then my only ask would be if they attach the video on what exactly it was. But anyway, just wanted to shine light on that. And that's the first rundown of 2025. On to today's interview with Victor. And we got three-time guest on the pod, which is incredibly rare. And the man who did the first episode with me, I'm probably going to lose count after this one because Victor just keeps saving my ass anytime I'm having trouble getting players on. So huge thank you to my man. But welcome, Victor. What's up? How are you? How have you been?
Thank you. It's great to be back. I'm very good. Christmas is around the corner, so I'm enjoying a few days off before I get back on the squash court and I try and get better.
Are you just trying to take your mind off of squash at the time being?
Yes, a bit. I mean, I still have to do some podcasts like yours, but
the media just keeps coming.
But yeah, no. At least since I came back from Hong Kong, I try and switch off a bit from the squash so that I can really be motivated when I'm back on the squash court in a few days.
How's the jet lag? That must be crazy.
I feel like I was just very tired. And you know, when you're going west to east, so usually when I travel to the States, you end up being tired in the evening and waking up way too early. And I'm tired in the evening and I wake up late, so I feel like my body just needs
That's the worst. That's the worst. Yeah. I guess it'd be only appropriate to start with World Teams. We'd love to walk us through that event, how that event was for you. I know I gave my 2 cents on how I thought about the event, but I think for a player's perspective, it's very interesting. You're representing your country. B, I also find it unique that you're playing so many matches. I feel like people don't realize that compared to the usual PSA. And I also did read your recent Instagram write-up, which I think there was one line that was really interesting. I think you said like you felt a lot more like a team compared to prior events. So would love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, about like organization-wise, I think it was really good just because the weather in Hong Kong was fantastic in December. I was in Hong Kong for 3 weeks and it was pretty much sunny and the whole 3 weeks, so that was really cool. And the hotels and squash courts are from walking distance. Even at the Hong Kong Open, when you play at the National Center, you can take the tram, the old Hong Kong tram, and get there. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, back to World Teams. The Hong Kong Football Club is such a big club that we were a bit worried with all the teams in the club, in the building. It would be a bit too crowded, a bit too too warm, and it wasn't. Usually, also we have only the men's team happening at once, and then the women's team the year after, and we had both events together. Obviously, with separate events, men's competing together and against each other, and women's on the other side. But it never felt like it was too crowded. As always, there's some like scheduling issues here and there, but overall, it was a really good event in terms of organization. There's always going to be the debate about the outdoor courts. Obviously, it's great for pictures. Usually, it's great for the fans because you can have some big stands to watch the matches. This time around, felt like there weren't enough seating for the amount of people that wanted to come and watch. And it got a bit cold in the end, which is always the problem with outdoor courts, in my opinion, is that you can't control the weather and the conditions, so it ends up being too warm in Egypt, for example, or too cold San Francisco, Hong Kong this year. So to me, we'd rather be playing indoor. It'd be less of a headaches for organizers as well. You can control the temperature, the humidity, because it was also very humid in Hong Kong. But it was still a great event, and as always, players adapted, complained not too much, and we still had some great matches on that outdoor court. With one of them being my semi-final match against Ali Farag, obviously.
So close.
Obviously, one of the highlights of my World Team Championship, being so close to beat Ali, but yeah, it'll be for another time. But back to your quote. I feel like every time we play a team event, we feel so exhausted at the end of it, just because of the mental energy you have to bring to just coexisting with the other teammates and the staff. Like, we're such an individual sport. We think about ourselves before anyone else when we're on tour and we're competing. Obviously, I'm sharing rooms with my French teammates all year round, but still, when it's match day, we all have our own routines, and it doesn't matter. Like, if we can't come and watch our teammate because we have to prepare for a match, that's fine. Here in team events, you're always together. You always have to share meals. You have to watch each other and just accept our differences. And again, individual sport, big egos, especially on the, well, no, I was going to say especially on the men's side. No, I was going to say on the men's side, but I'm sure there are issues on the women's side as well. But yeah, there's some big egos in our team, and we also very different in terms of characters. With Sebastian's and I are probably more calm and might just stay in the room. Sebastian will play like Pokemon cards or watch some YouTube videos, and you don't hear about him for hours. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you got Baptiste, who just always have to be with somebody, always have to talk and laugh, which is fine and fun, but sometimes we want some downtime as well. So I feel like this year we managed to find that balance between just giving ourselves our own time sometimes, and then gathering for some meals and some time together so we can talk about matches, and also just have fun all together so that we can bond and really feel like we're playing for something bigger than just ourselves.
Do you personally feel like you play better when you have the French jersey on, or like, do you think you play better when it's just you're playing for yourself?
No, I feel personally I bring the same intensity just to every match, to be honest, because it's just the way I prepare. But I definitely feel more emotions on court when I play for a team, because it's just not it's not just for me. Obviously, I'll never give up when it's just for me, because again, that's just who I am, and I just hate that giving up a match. But I'll fight until the end. But when you play for a team, it's always like it's always more important. We also know like a lot of people watching on TV. When I was younger, I was watching the French team at the World Champs, the European Champs. Those are the competitions you don't miss when you're a squash fan or a young player growing up. So you know that the up and coming French players are watching, and you want to inspire them and lead by example, really. So um, all in, I think yes, it makes the matches more important. And so from the pool stage, you really want to play at your best. Again, you said it as well. It's a lot of matches, so you just want to be as efficient as possible in the first rounds or first ties. And in the past, we felt like we lost a bit of energy and games here and there in the first few rounds, trying to build up to the quarters or the semis. And this time we felt like we just had to be more professional from the get-go. Yeah, and I mean, I also personally I feel like I bring the same intensity, but I felt like the past two European Championship I was a bit up and down, trying to find my place in the team. I'm playing number one. When you're playing European champs, you don't have one easy match. You're playing Scotland, you're playing Greg Loban, you're playing Spain, you're playing Iker Paredes, you're playing England. Obviously, it's one of the Shorbagy's brother. You're playing Switzerland. It's Dimitri or Nicolas Müller. So there's really no easy matches, and it felt like in the World Championship, you've got more time to get to those big matches. I remember European Championship 2 years ago in Finland. We arrived in the evening, and the next day I had to play Iker in the morning, Nicolas Müller in the afternoon, and I lost both matches, and it just made the week really tough for me, because it was the first time I was playing one for the team, and I felt like I was laying them down. So yeah, it hasn't been easy the past few competitions playing for France personally, but I felt like I raised the bar this time, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
I think you did. I mean, thought you were going to take that scalp over Ferrari.
Yeah. It's so frustrating as well when you see how it plays out in the end with Sebastian winning 2-1 against Mason. I feel like Mustafa came into his match against Baptiste a bit tense in the first game, and obviously after he won that game, he was just playing unbelievable squash. But I felt like if I had won that match, it would have made things more intense, more difficult for Mustafa. Baptiste would have been a bit more like running, just using that momentum, and Baptiste really needs that. So I feel it would have made things a bit more interesting, a bit more spicy. But we'll never know.
Talk about spicy. I really wanted you guys to play that third spot out against Switzerland, and I realized you guys just all get the bronze.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been a great matchup between Team France and Team Switzerland. How would you have thought of that matchup?
Well, it was that's what happened last year in New Zealand as well. We didn't play the 3/4 position.
Such a shame.
Well, to be honest, we're so prepared to just win the quarters, and then semis and final are just like, let's get it all out. And if you lose, well, you know you're out, but you have a medal. We came into the championship wanting to get the gold medal, because we feel like if we have the ability to do it, but if we just aim for the bronze medal, then we don't really we don't allow ourselves to just dream a bit bigger. So it was important for us to aim aim high to go for the gold, but deep inside, you know that once you get to the semis, it's just like, okay, fine. If we lose at least, we know we come back with a medal, and it's the end of the year, and it makes it makes both teams happy. But I remember 2012, I think I was cleaning the courts in Mulhouse, France, when the Team Championship happened there, and Thierry Lincourt, who was coaching us this week, was playing his last World Team Championship that year, and France lost in the semis to England. That's when, I don't know if you remember, but Greg Gauthier had cramped against Nick Matthew in his match. Very, very, very long match, and the tie finished around after midnight for sure. And they were playing the next day against Australia for the 3/4 position, and they won that one, which was quite amazing. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against bringing the 3/4 position back just for another match. And I think if you think about the Olympics, you have to bring it back, because in the Olympics as well, you play the 3/4 position. I think you do too at the Commonwealth game, or you used to, since squash won't be at the Commonwealth game next time around. Yeah, but I mean, if you're asking me a question of just playing Switzerland, whether it's the 3/4 position or not, yes, it's a spicy one. We've had some really tough encounters at the Europeans. I think it was, where was it? In Finland, we won game average 2-all, because I lost to Nicky Miller and Gregoire lost to Dimitri, and we ended up winning by a few games, because we won our third and fourth position 3-love. But yeah, we in the 3-player format, we know it's a very tight one, because Nicky can win anybody on the day, and Dimitri has proved that he's a much stronger opponent and he'll never give up. So I know anytime I'll play Dimi, it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, I love that matchup between you and Dimi. He's also improving so
yeah,
much.
For sure.
It's good to see. Victor, you know I love the gossip. And
yeah.
You're probably not going to like this next question, but it wouldn't be the rally report unless I dig into these controversy, which is why I got to bring up, speaking of France, we got to bring up the match against Mohamed El Shorbagy in European Championships.
Yeah.
That was
it's been a long time we haven't talked then.
It's been a long time. I was trying to get you. I was like thinking I got to get him on right after this.
I think that's when you contacted me, to be honest. Yeah.
Just following the gossip here. But yeah. I think I watched that live from the get-go, just to set the scene for the audience out here for that. It was, I think, first game, something immediate trash talking, a little bit of blocking going on, and immediately into the mind games that happened like right off the bat in the European championship finals between France and England. And then there was an incident where I think the first game had ended and then Shorbagy was exiting the court and he opted to, I guess, further implement those mind games and kind of wait for you. And then I thought you were playing a little mind games by doing a little extra soloing than normal. So it was like, wow, this is getting spicy. And then ultimately there was a little bit of a door slam, and then Shorbagy fell right at the end, immediately asked for the conduct stroke. Would love to get your story, your side of the story, what was going through your head at the time. And most importantly, were you able to talk things over with him in the aftermath of that incident?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it was a terrible week for me. Coming back from Egypt, I was in Egypt for 10 days, and I played the Black Ball Open, the Alguna Open, and lost in both tournaments in the first round. So I was April was definitely not a great month for me. It was lacking motivation, lacking confidence in my game, And so at that event at the Europeans, I think it was the first evening I lost to Dimitri for the first time in a while. And losing to Dimitri isn't the issue in itself. It's just that I really gave up in the end. Didn't really fight to try and find a way through, and that really hurt me personally. And and so because I lost that kind of motivation, confidence, I was like, I'm just gonna experiment in the spectrum of emotions, and I'm just gonna get into playing the next match being really aggressive and almost mean, to be honest. So the next day I played Rafa Condra on a traditional court, and I was just blocking Condra anytime I could. The ref would give a decision, I would just shout and be angry.
The villain arc.
Just trying to fire myself up, right? And so we won that match. We got to the semis. We won the semis. We got to the final, and obviously, while we were talking with my teammates and the staff, we said it's really important that we stay calm and composed, and and we know that Mohamed's gonna, not even on court, but even on off court, he's bringing the mind game.
Really?
While Curtis was playing, he would be the one opening the door after each game and kind of throwing the fist bumps to Curtis while our French players are getting off court, which is fine. You just have to just have not to respond, really, and that's why that's what I did while I was on court. And yeah, I thought I thought I could have done better, because the last time we played in Finland in the final and we went to five, and again I was so close from winning. From the beginning, I entered into his mind game, and I was my thought was that I would get into that match in Finland, showing him that he can play mind game. I'll do it too, and I'll do it back to himself, and so he'll get surprised and think like, "Whoa, that doesn't work," and then that would have unsettled him. So I thought I could do that again, but I was definitely not in the same mindset. And yeah, I was very frustrated losing that first game. I was doing my quick soloing, and I thought he would just go off court. And in the back of my vision, I could see he was waiting for me, and I was like, "Damn, I definitely don't want to do that, because I know he's going to be annoying." And yeah, at some point I was like, "All right, let's walk off court." It's just stupid to just stay here. Just get your coaching tips from the staff. Get a drink, cool down, and get back on court with better intention. And while he was waiting, I just thought I would play mind games with him as well. And obviously, it backfired. So shouldn't have done that.
It's all learning experience. Yeah,
but it's all good. It's all good today. I mean, Mohamed is just who he is. Either you accept his antics on court, and you accept that he's just another person off court, or you just don't talk to him at all. So yeah, I mean, it was in Alguna as well. The week before, he did something pretty, I would say, off the limit against Youssef Solomon. So and kind of got away with it, which was quite surprising, but I think he knew that he got off the limit against Youssef, and was trying to get back in the line.
Cool. How often does trash? It's always interesting. It doesn't have to happen often, but there's sometimes you hear the players kind of talk to each other, and as the viewers, we don't hear what you guys say to each other. Is it pretty intense, or is it just like a little jabs here and there?
Depends with the players, but it's mostly just jabs here and there, honestly.
Jabs. Just like, stop blocking.
Like, not gonna, stop blocking, or you blocked me here, wait for the next time, or you'll see the next time, stuff like that. Like it's not the end of the world. Like I'm not gonna. Nobody is insulting your mother. Like, you know what I mean? Oh,
It's not like
at
other
least
sports. Yeah.
not while I was on court, but um,
Great to hear your perspective on that, but kind of pivoting away from that.
yeah.
Want to ask you a quick, short question here. I don't know if anyone's asked you this, but Victor, I got to say you're quite experimental with the fashion. I think you're the fashion guy on tour, and I feel like this goes unnoticed, but I got to ask the double wristband move. For those
Wow.
who don't know, Victor does this signature two wristbands, on kind of like on top of each other on the same arm. And I feel like not a lot of people notice this, but want to hear, when you started experimenting on this, it seems like it's stuck with you right now and no one
Oh, it's
talks about
stuck,
it.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that's not fashion. That's technical.
It's
That's very
technical.
technical. It's the long Dunlop wristband. Just end up moving up and down. While if you get
Oh,
two small ones, they're a bit tighter, and so two together just work very well. But yeah,
I
that makes
didn't,
some good pictures. Makes
I
some
didn't,
good
I didn't, I
pictures.
didn't know it was about performance. I thought it was a fashion choice, Victor.
No, no.
But just wanted to ask you that quick question. But earlier I alluded to the fact that you do these Instagram write-ups, right? I think
Yes.
you've begun this like a year and a half ago, where after every tournament you actually do an in-depth write-up. And I find it so unique, so entertaining that given that squash players don't usually do this, because you kind of also give your post-match thoughts on, I mean, essentially it's like if you lose, you'll kind of do that write-up as well. And
Yeah.
you kind of go into specifics on your game plan, how that went. Are you okay writing that all publicly out there for other players to read as well? Or is that like a filtered out version of what you might be writing for yourself?
So I think you think it's for a year now because I've got a visual identity with those pictures and then
Yeah.
the
Just
writing and
trying
the
trying to
pictures.
break yours down right now here.
Yeah, but I've done that for since I've been competing, honestly. Or at the
Mm,
beginning, it was on Facebook, and before I would just put it on the caption on Instagram. But I just think it's
mm.
just very hard to read a long text in the caption or in Instagram. So I thought I would just edit it and put it in a nice little square in the carousel that you can see you can read on Instagram. Um, but no, I don't really care about whether my opponents, some of my opponents might read it. I personally, I know, for example, Nathan Lake writes his monthly or
Mm.
by or every 2 months a newsletter, and I love reading them and trying to get some insights into what's going on into players' mind and how they develop themselves. Um, like I don't think like at the end of the day we all have to improve our own game, and like I'm not gonna give much away by telling people what I'm working on and where I want to or what my weaknesses were in this match and what I can work on. I feel like once you're on court, you've got so much to think about.
Right.
It'd be hard to really just dig into my write-ups and and trying to get some analyzing insights.
Fair enough.
But I think it's just like if you think about tennis, what I'm writing is what players would say when they answer questions from
Mm.
journalists in the press conference. So obviously, I would rather have journalists ask me those very cool questions where you can delve into the technical insights of your game and where you want to develop your game. But because there's no press conference and nothing where you can really share your insights, well, I have to write it myself. And also, I think just for myself, it's a good way to just reflect on, or just do pause and really sit down and take the time to reflect on my on my journey. So no, they're not very filtered out.
I say.
There's definitely some things that I might be sharing with my dad that aren't in the write-up because I can't write everything, um, but overall, it's not filtered.
Okay. If we're talking about like post-game analysis and journalists asking questions, would have killed to have people ask you questions after that Eain Yow match, the 18-20 in the fifth.
Yeah, for example.
What a match that was. I mean, we could do that right now. Like, would love to, I don't think people really did it, that were able to dissect that after that match, but if we were to quickly go over that match,
I think
that was an iconic match.
As a competitor, it's just frustrating to lose that one. I think from the very beginning, like I feel like Yow and I are pretty much on the same level, and so and Yow is definitely a bit more patient and spend more time just building his rallies in the back corners, while I can bring a bit more magic in the front corners. But he's still so good at intercepting on the volley and putting the ball away, especially on the forehand. So you always have to be careful with your cross-court, your backing cross-court to his forehand. And his defensive abilities he doesn't do much from the front left, although when he does, it's very aggressive. But he just lift the ball. He just gets out of trouble by lifting straight on the back end really, really well. So, I felt like it was a good match. It's definitely frustrated, to lose I think it was the second one I lost while I was really controlling the game at that point. And I hit a few tins in like black and white situation where I was supposed to hit a winner or keep the advantage at least. And after losing that second game, it was tough to get back into the match in the third and to keep the same intention. I was also struggling a bit with my shoes. So my head was just not in the right space.
Slipping?
No, shoes were just they were getting a bit old, so my foot was moving a bit too much in the shoe, and so I had prepared other shoes in my bag, so my head was just focusing too much on the pain rather than just trying to play. And when he went up on the scoreboard, I kind of just thought I would try and get some confidence back in that game, but if I lose it, I'll just get ready for the next one. And I came back in the fourth game with some really good intention. I think the referee not accepting me to get a new ball kind of
that was crazy. Well. That was crazy.
That was crazy, but that was right. That was the right call. I feel like I definitely asked for the ball a bit too late.
It's so particular, the rules of if you have to be on the court, but
that's what I said when I came back on court. I was like, but where is it written where you have to ask for the ball? Like specifically, what does that mean when you get out of the court? Does that mean when you open the door, when
mid-sentence?
You just out the court? Like it doesn't. He said, yeah, well, you weren't on the screen anymore, so that's out of the court. I'm like, yeah, that's one option. But that kind of fired me up and brought my intensity back, and I played that fourth game really, really well. And again in the fifth, I was not controlling, but I was definitely up. And yeah, I mean, Yow kept fighting and find a way back like he did in the second. It's that kind of matches or that level where your intensity goes a tiny bit down, and then all of a sudden you go from controlling to being on the losing end, like very quickly. So that's what happened, and then obviously you got that tie breaks with a lot of back and forth. Yow definitely got a bit dirty in the end, but I was
going to ask you about that.
We all do at some point. I was definitely getting a bit dirty, for example, with Ali, trying to get that second game or trying to get that fifth game, that third game. But it's not. I feel like it was more to me. I don't care. I don't mind if the plays are like this at this point. now that we've got so much experience about how players are playing. It's more sometimes it's just the referees that can't see it. And
I don't know if you saw that
kinda,
that match back. What the commentators were saying about that match at the tiebreak. They were like, "My goodness, how are they not catching the blocks on this?"
Yeah. Sometimes that's the frustrating part, especially with the video. Like with the replay, you can really see it. But anyway, like it's always like you don't put the ball in the middle, you don't get blocked. So just gotta be better. And I think just to sum up this match, I lost this match and I was quite pissed off for 5 minutes, just frustrated, gutted to have lost, because obviously there are points and there's a chance to play Ali in the semi for gold, which doesn't happen that often. It was a good job. So yeah, I was definitely gutted, not seeing a victory here, but in the end, when I reflected, it's like it's just 2 points. Could have gone either way. Like I'm not gonna over analyze that match, and because if I had won, it would have been all joy, and I would say I've played great. I was solid at the end of the match. That's great. I've made some improvement. And so if you lost by 2 points, you're not just gonna say, well, everything's bad. I'm gonna completely change the way I approach the match and blah 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 blah. So I try and stay neutral with the result in mind. Kind of.
What's the first 20 minutes like after you lose a devastating match like that? Do you just go to your own corner and just sit and kind of be in your own thoughts? Do you like calling your dad right away? Who's your coach? Like, what is your process like?
Yeah, that's very personal, but usually the anger or frustration,
couple rackets break.
Not really. Doesn't last very long. Usually it's not more than a minute even. This time around it was a bit more.
Fair enough.
But usually no, I get on my phone and try and get some communication with my dad so I can start getting some insights right away. And also my dad likes to get my insights while I'm still like in the match. Since he's not at the venue, he doesn't see how I react, my emotions, etc. So sometimes it's important to have the feedback straight away while you get off court, and then the feedback after you've cooled down and you've thought a bit more about what happened, so that you can compare them. You can say, hey, look at what you said since it's text messages as well, it's easier to look back.
Proof. Yeah.
Just so that you're a bit more you're a bit more careful with the words you choose, and you try to respond like with your mind and not just react and throw some words here and there just because you're angry, right?
Right.
But no, I tried because it was such a long match. I was getting very thirsty at the end of that fifth game. And I just try and quickly go into recovery mode, because that's what would have made me feel a bit better about losing. When you have like a process you have to follow, at least you just don't get angry and just dig a hole.
Right. That's probably the worst thing to do. Victor, you've been able to crack the top 10, and right now you're currently in the mix of, you're currently ranked 12. You're trying to crack back into it. Without giving away too much, I'm curious, like, what are the details you work on? Do you look at the season that when you cracked into the top 10, or do you think you've had massive improvements from that season, or do you think there are things from that season that you might not be applying in this season? How do you approach this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think I just got out of college and I had nothing to lose and everything to really look forward to. It was a new life that I really wanted to start living after college, and yeah, there's a lot of excitement, and I think a lot of just it was spontaneous. Like I wasn't overthinking, overanalyzing. Um, it was becoming my job, but I was still doing it with a lot of excitement and like freedom. Like
Right.
there wasn't a lot of calculus in the way I would do things. Obviously, process. I've always had a lot of routine and process and scheduled my training blocks and my tournaments. But it was I would go into those tournaments just looking forward to play without. I had goals, but like they weren't taking as much weight and place as they can have right now when it's becoming your job, and you're looking at the finances as well a bit more because that's your job. You've got some other things on the side, like I bought an apartment. I had to start.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's a lot of work. I had to kind of like you're not a student anymore, so you have to like there's a lot of things to do with your finances, etc. And that's the everything that you have to do around your squash that is taking a bit of space as well. Um, and so that's part one. Point two is obviously I think my opponent started to analyze my game and try and find weaknesses here and there, and they've definitely found a few. So they become better at playing against me, and so I also think I got to a point where I was really happy where my game was, and so um, when you want to improve and you adding a few things to your game, sometimes you do one step backward before you can do two steps forward, and that's change, and change can be scary at times. And I feel like I got to a point where I was trying to add a few things to my game, but I kind of lost the track of how I was playing, like the structure of my game, which shot to like some natural shots that I would play in some situations. Like I remember April, for example, when I playing against Remington and Laguna, I just didn't know how to win a point anymore. Like I would build my rallies, get some good lines, and then on the attacking side, I didn't know what to do well. And I think there was one time as well, 23, end of 23, where I was trying to work on some mental goals. So how to be better to close the games, how to be better to keep the lead when you get 2-3 points. And well, again, that was against Ramit in Malaysia, the Malaysian Open.
Can always ram it.
Yeah, Ramit got me twice in 2023, 24. So yeah, my goal was to really close out the games when I was 10-6, 10-7, 10-8 up. And so I had those mental goals and try and put some routines in place. And I would get to that point where I get to 10 and I would apply the routines, and those routines would fail. And so failing to not succeeding, my mental goal became like more of a failure than having to win the game or having to win the match. Like, it's okay if it doesn't work out at 10-8 or 10-7. You still have 1 or 2 more points to win the game. But not being able to work out how to get that routine successfully in place just took so much space, and kind of in the end, I remember when I lost this match, I had no energy no mental energy in the fifth game because I was just so frustrated at just not being able to overcome those obstacles, which are mental and are very personal, and that would take away my drive to just win the match, which is supposed to be like the main goal when you're competing, and right, when you're competing and you're trying to win the match. So I try to simplify some of those things, but again, like when I lost against Yao, I try and work on some mental goals again. And I feel like when I play against Mohamed El Shorbagy, it was just all over the place, thinking about too many things and feeling frustrated when, for example, in the first two games, I went up to 5-2, 5-3, and then I would see Marwan come back on the scoreboard very quickly, and that would frustrate me a lot because I was thinking about those mental goals instead of just kind of taking the points one at a time and not overanalyzing every point while I'm playing. And yeah, things got better at the World Champs, and I think at the World Champs especially, sometimes when you train, you have some, like, you're taking more risk, you're enjoying it a lot, and it's like it's feelings that it's tough to bring to a match sometimes just because of the pressure. And I felt like during the World Championship I was competing like I was training, and that was a really good feeling to have, especially in the first few rounds, and also against Ali, obviously. So that's what I'm trying to bring up again in 25, which I had at the beginning of 24 at the TOC.
This is the tournament. This is your tournament.
Yeah, it was one of the tournament of my year. There was still some great things in 24, but there were also some dark times. So yeah, I'll 25. I think I'll just try not to get into that same trap of that vicious circle of being negative and frustrated, and focusing too much on those mental goals sometimes.
Can't be too frustrated with the holidays coming up, so we'll be in a good headspace. So I think I've mentioned this a couple times. I find that battle. I know Yusuf Sulman just cracked into that top 10 spot, but there's a crop of players between. Obviously, there's Yusuf, there's Marwan, there's you, there's Ali Abu, Eain Yow, and Yusuf Ibrahim. It's like the most entertaining battle right there at that spot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like, I'm not, obviously my goal is to get back into the top 8. But I feel like since September I've done some great work, training wise. It's been going very well training wise in terms of relationship with my dad / coach. Better than in the past, where there can be some tension and it's hard to really be positive on the squash court while we train. So no, I felt great since September while training. I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. So even though the results weren't always the ones I was expecting, as you said, like I think from 8 to 15 and even more, it's just so dense. And I mean, I had my best days maybe in 22, 23, and then Ali Abu had such a great few months with San Francisco and the US Open. Like, there's so many players of my generation who are breaking through, maybe a few months after me, but at some point they're all breaking through. So right. I'm more happy for them than anything else. Like, I'm not gonna say, damn it, they're breaking through, what am I doing? Like, we all in a different journey, and we all break through when we have to break through. But I think that generation will get to the top at some point.
Quick question is, like, is there a player that's impressed you the most this season? Probably
Ali Abu.
Ali Abu, yeah. He's
I mean, if you take the top 4 out, Ali Abu's been very impressive. and the way he's playing. It's very fast, a lot of attacking. He's very hard to keep in the back corners, because he's ended up following everything now. He's just like, in the past he used to be so fast, but not controlling his movement well enough. And I feel that now he's just tactically so aware and using his speed so well that it's very hard to play against him these days. But obviously Making's been coming back as well. And I mean, I watched him play against Greg War in the first round in Hong Kong, and he's just so solid physically. So there's just one option with Making is just to have some great attacking. And yeah, I remember the only one who's been able to do that very well is Gawad at the French Open.
Yeah, no, that was good. Do you think there's just talking about like the state of squash and everything, do you think there's a big gap between the top 3 or 4 in the top 10, or do you don't think that gap is that big?
Depends the player. I feel like on the day Making can be anyone. Yeah, I think that's or maybe it's the same in other racket sports, but I feel like on the day nobody is guaranteed to win even the top 3. Diego showed that he's been particularly strong at playing against anybody else than the top 3. But that's what we thought about Mustafa, and then Ali Abou came in and beat Mustafa.
Right.
Ali Farag will always lose a game or 2 here and there, but it's still tough to beat in the end. I mean, that's why they're 1, 2, 3 as well. It's just because they don't lose a lot of matches, right? But I don't think it will be forever. I think they've been dominating the past 2, 3 years, right, for sure. But Paul's been in there as well. I think from 5 to 8, you've got from 5 to 20, you've got some younger guys who are going to break through and stay there at some point, and you've got some older guys who will eventually retire as well. But it's still impressive, for example, to see Tarek still in the top 8.
He's still moving fantastic.
Yeah, still moving fantastic. Still, when you choose to compete, he's really competing well. Mohamed's still in the top 10, which is very, very impressive as well. But I feel like, for example, those two at some point will always be a nightmare to play, because they're so experienced. But at some point they'll just retire because it's hard for them. It's hard for them, I think, to keep the motivation, and the game is becoming so intense. You have to be so up for it when you're competing that you can't. At some points, I think it's very hard to keep that same investment.
Last question I wanted to ask you was the state of squash in France ahead of 2028 Olympics. I know a lot of countries are making a big deal out of the Olympics, changing coaches, doing all these things. I think France always been in a good stand with their program. I'd say it's probably on the forefront with probably after Egypt, but there is this is my personal take, but there seems to be a lack of big. I mean, there's always big junior names, always in World Juniors who are making the quarterfinals, but I guess I'm just curious to get your thoughts on, are you concerned? Are you excited for the future right now? How are you feeling as someone who's
you had Thierry for so many years, and then Greg just took so much space for so many years as well that it's hard to replace him.
Both on and off the court?
Yeah, both on and on, true. But yeah, you don't have a French player in the top 10 while we're speaking. So it's a big difference from when you had Greg Gauthier in top 2, 3, and Camille Sam, who was up there as well. But I'd say since we going to Olympics, we definitely had more conversations with with resources from the Olympic Committee and the Ministry of Sport. But you know how it is in France. Sport is governed by the state, and the state of France. The French state isn't going that well at the minute. We don't know how the budget will be distributed. So personally, I try and not rely too much on whether we'll get more funding or not, whether we'll get more resources or not. I think I'm much more interested in trying to get in relation with coaches and players from other racket sports, so that we can learn what it is to compete at the Olympic Games, what it is to qualify for the Olympic Games, than the funding in itself. Nice. But I think that at the moment we have a lot, at least on the men's side, because that's why I follow the most. But we have a lot of like upcoming juniors who are in the top 70 to 150 or 200, and we have one or two younger guys who are definitely on the rise. But it's still hard to say whether they'll be able to get to the top or not. At the end of the day, I think it's more, you've got so many players, whether it's in France or in the rest of the world, that have so much talent. But I think education, and not necessarily academic education, but just education and the way you portray yourself is just so important to your journey and how to become a champion. That we'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap the interview up with the blind rankings, Victor. I don't know if you've seen this or know what this is, but it's where I give you 5 different names and you rank them accordingly without knowing what name comes next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. First name, James Willstrop.
I'll say 3.
3? Okay, so James Willstrop 3. Theory Linku. I don't know if I said that name correct, but
yeah. Wow. I'll say 2 because I'm patriotic.
All right. Well, speaking of patriotic, Gregor Golte is the next name.
Then 1.
Nick Matthew.
Well, I have to say 4.
All right. David Palmer.
5.
If I let you just swap one, which one would you swap? Or would you like the rankings added?
So I'll go Greg, Thierry, Willstrop, Nick, and David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably switch Nick and James.
Got it. Well, there you have it. There's Victor's blind ranks. I always thought he did a pretty good job. I kind of agree with the rankings he has. So, just saying.
Oh, you could always debate with David. And even with Nick.
But yeah, that's the interview. I'll wrap it up there. Victor, thank you so much for jumping on. That was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be on the podcast.